With Twitch and YouTube again today. Now, for anyone who's new here, I'm working on a survival crafting MMO, building the client in Unity3D and the server in TypeScript, a custom backend. I am hoping that we're actually live. I need to confirm that we're currently live. Yes, it looks like we are currently live. Excellent. In the last stream, I worked on my entity storage service, getting some queries working so that it could find mobs that it needed to work on the AI for, and also find players that are near the troll. Do let me know if there's any problem with my audio or anything at any point. I need to make sure I'm not about to get some feedback as I turn my audio on. There we go. So yes, welcome everyone. We currently have no one in Twitch and we've got 7 people in YouTube. Okay, so today I'm going to continue the work where we left it off last time. I did a little bit of work off stream to get the entity queries actually working. And I have, well, today I'm going to be working on actually getting the troll to do damage to the player and communicate changes through to the client. I never get through quite as much as I expect, but we'll see how we go. So let's see. Yes, so the chat is working apparently. That's good. They should just pop up for about 30 seconds, I think, the chat messages. So yeah, hopefully that keeps on working. Let's have a look at where I left things off. Now, someone asked in the last stream what the ticker service is, and I did a pretty poor job of explaining it. There's a much better explanation, which is it's a little bit like the update methods in Unity. It's just something that runs for every game tick and processes any entities that need to be processed. So at the moment, it's all just one big function that will get factored out at some point. But at the moment, all it does is it finds all the entities that need processing, and then this in here is like the update function for the troll. So that's hopefully a better job of explaining what the ticker service does. It processes game ticks. Okay, so what do we currently do? Well, we look up any mobs that are AI agents. For each one, we ask whether or not they have an aggro behavior. They don't, we don't know how to process them, so we keep on going. Then next thing we do is we ask for this agent state component, which has been recently added. And then from in here, well, it also tries to find players that are within a certain distance. This should be pulling the radius, get radius from agent component. In fact, I can probably do that now. Here we can see that the agent component has an aggro distance. So let's do that. Let's go entity. It's agent.attributes.aggro distance. There we go. Let's see. Then what it does is it says, well, does the mob have an aggro target? If it does, but it can't see the player it's aggro against, then it clears the aggro target. If it doesn't have an aggro target, but there's at least one player within range, then we set the aggro target. Then we get into the actual aggressive code. First of all, if we don't have anything to attack, then just continue. This shouldn't be here anymore. This code has all been largely replaced. And then we need to say, well, if the aggro target is within strike range, then attack. So we need to get the coordinate of the actual mob. So that's going to be entity dot location. This is going to be a bit verbose, this code here. Let's go const entity location. New coordinate using a new chunk coordinate. I definitely need to come up with a function that just does this for me, but this will do for now. Location.chunk. I'm going to make that a forced one for now. New axial coordinate. X. There we go. We'll then get the target location. Is going to be the aggro target. And of course, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. If there's anything I'm kind of glossing over that you'd like me to go into more detail about, then I'd be more than happy to do that. New coordinate. No, that's not entity. That should be aggro target dot location x. Okay. Const target distance. Now, I think I have a distance function on entity location. Do I? No, I don't. So I'm going to have to add one. Oh, what's this? Spot. Distance. Other. So the final game, I mean, at the moment it's effectively infinite. I mean, as big as the numbers the coordinate system will store. The final game I kind of would like to be kind of planet-sized. So the idea being that it is a closed world, but we'll be able to have players kind of spawning in at various sort of village centres around the world and have lots and lots and lots of space without running into each other. I do have some ideas for game mechanics that will allow those separated populations to interact with each other, which I won't quite go into yet, but that is the plan. Is in general, there'll be space to spread. No individual will ever be able to explore the entire world, but I do expect it to be a closed world. Now, I'm going to try a little trick here because I'm about to start doing a bunch of things with hex coordinates. And I think that I have a command here I can use in chat. Maybe. Nope, that didn't work. All right. There is a... Oh, yeah, I see what I've done wrong. Here we go. So I'm about to start talking about hex coordinates. If you want a recap of how my coordinate system works, then I do suggest you go off and watch those episodes I've just linked in there. Watch it after the stream, of course. Otherwise, you'll miss out on this actual work. It's not absolutely critical you understand what I'm doing here. But this is going to be some code that finds the distance using these UVQR components. let's see, we need to take the chunk coordinate distance. Need to think about the best way of actually doing this. Get the this.uv. Okay, so that's the actual chunk coordinate, so the coarser grained coordinate. And then we subtract other.uv. That gives us the distance between, the difference, sorry, between the chunk coordinates. Const that. Okay. Now I should be able to then convert that to the tile coordinate. So where is a browser? If I go and look up Xmod, so this is a little bit like what I'm talking about here. So here are our hex tiles. You can see they each have coordinates, but then we're broken up further into these chunks. So what I've now done is I've taken the difference between two chunk coordinates. So perhaps this one would be 1, minus 1 or something. And then I've converted that into a QR component. So that would give me the, so instead of 2 minus 3, this one might be, we're going to end up with like 5, minus 5 or something like that up here. So it is just telling me how far apart the centers of the chunks are. Const, well, and once we've got that, we should be able to just do a dot plus. Now, if we take the difference between the coordinates within the chunks, that's going to be this dot qr dot minus other dot qr. I very much doubt this is right. I'm going to have to write some tests for this. So there's that. And then if we return introduce a local variable difference, and then return difference dot magnitude. Okay. I very much doubt that's right. So I am going to write a quick test for that. Test distance between adjacent X tiles is 1. Const coordinate 1. I'll just call it C1. It's be a new coordinate. Have faith. I think I said last time that nothing ever works the first time, and if it does, it means you've got something wrong that you haven't worked out yet. New axial coordinate. Oh, I need a chunk coordinate first. Chunk coordinate 0, 0. New axial coordinate 0, 0. LEJ do its magic. Go. Const C2 is going to be a new coordinate. I'm going to put them in the same chunk. Oh, I can actually do slightly better than this. I can actually just do C2 is equal to C1 dot apply direction. So I can actually ask it to move in a particular direction. And then I will move in the, I'll just move in any arbitrary direction by 1 tile. And then I expect C2 or C1 distance to C2 to equal 1. Yeah, it's absolutely right, Kyle. If things do work out the first time, you can spend quite a bit of time actually working out how on earth you got it right the first time. But I guarantee this will fail. Here we go. Run that. And if that one doesn't fail, then I reckon I can get other ones to fail. Let's make sure that it goes around the other way. Play that. Okay. So a slightly harder example, distance between origin and adjacent hex tiles is 1. Let's do another test, but this time between adjacent hex tiles on chunk border. Is 1. So this time I'll do, I think I've actually got a constant that I could have been using here, dot 0 dot apply direction, and I'll just pick an arbitrary direction. I have no reason to think I'd get a directional bug in this code, so I'm not too fussed there. But this time we're going to ask to go out by the coordinate system chunk radius. So I'll go right out to the edge of the chunk. Why doesn't it like that? Oh yeah, that's just a missing quote. Go. Run that. Oh, it worked first go. That's pretty cool. So one more test. Now I am only testing straight line distance here. Obviously, I also need to at some point test that if you do move in one direction and then move in another direction, that should be a distance 2. But let's just check if we compare 0, check distance between origin and hex tiles in another chunk. Chunk coordinate dot, no, chunk system. Sorry, coordinate system is my class. Oh, my fingers are cold. It's quite cold here in Sydney at the moment. +1. I'm going to give another coordinate in here. Let's just go to C3 is equal to new coordinate chunk coordinate dot 0 dot apply direction QR, 1. No, I don't think I can do that. That has to be a chunk axis. UV, 1. So these are just taking 2 adjacent chunks now, the centers of 2 adjacent chunks. And I would expect them to differ by a chunk diameter, maybe. That, comma, axial coordinate dot 0. So we expect C1 dot distance to C3 to equal coordinate system dot, I think it's the chunk diameter. In this test, Oh yeah, the test is wrong. This one should be coordinate system dot radius plus 1. I'm just going to get rid of this one. We know the reciprocal side of things works. Run that. All right, I think my code works. Cool. So entity.loc, if the entity locate, well, just target distance is less than or equal to, fingers. Yeah, you say that if man, but we still haven't seen what the real bug is that we haven't found yet. So if this is less than the agent attributes dot, what did I call it? Attack range. Welcome back, Hellfire Squid. Sure you were in on the last stream. Okay. So in here, let's just perform an attack. For now, we don't have a huge amount we can do with it, so let's just put. I'll just do a console.log. Well, you've got a logging framework, so let's do that properly. Yeah, there's no way those tests were had good coverage. We'll find out where I messed up. Info. I'll just say attack for now. Okay. Something is not right in here. Yeah, we don't actually need to create objects here. We kind of do, because I need all of the, yes, I need them to be objects. So, fortunately, that means I've got to copy and paste all this stuff. Yeah, I really need a function for this. It's going to be to patient goes to new coordinate chunk. Yeah, on the line lengths, when I'm writing code that I know I'm about to factor out straight away, I tend not to worry about the line lengths. But now that I'm writing an actual function, and this will get moved somewhere else, but now that I've got an actual function, I will be a bit more sensible about it. Location.u, location.v, a new axial component coordinate. So that should be location.chunk.u, location.chunk.v. Kind of makes sense. I'm going to put braces in here because we do need to handle this thing not being an object of the right type. So if not location dot, I'm just going to say if not locations. The problem I have here is when we pull the location off the entity, locations themselves are optional because there is such a thing as an entity not having a location. and I don't want to put all my error checking out here. So I will put my error checking in here. Once we have a location, though, I'm willing to trust that we've got all the chunk and UVQR components on it already. So if not location, then I'm just going to throw a new error for now. Location is undefined. Then in here, we need to give this a type. Q or R. Oh, I really can't type today. Okay. That looks kind of right. I'll just move this up out of this function because this is used in a few places. It'll go out into a separate class at some point, of course. And then in here, I should just be able to do create coordinate from entity.location. Like that. Nope, apparently not. Type is not assignable. It's a simple typing mistake. That one there should be undefined. Nice. Good to hear you started work on a game. I very much like it when people see my stuff and decide to have a crack at it as well. Feel free to jump on the Discord as well at some point if you want to show off some screenshots or anything. I'll post a link to it in a moment. Find it actually. Where's my tab? So yeah, feel free to join the Discord. Anyone that's in here, there's usually a bit of stuff happening over there. Yes. Okay. Entity location dot distance does not exist on type void. Fair enough. Okay. So it gets the components, it updates the aggro target. One thing I'm not doing here, by the looks of things, I'm not actually sending that back to this change here, back to the server at the moment. So I'll need to do that. Probably do that down here to do send agent state back to the entity service. But we should at least be able to see it picking a target and attacking it. I very much doubt this will work. I'll spin it up in a command line. Terminal, here we go. Spinning the server up. I'm getting some warnings. Missing agent state. Yes, I know why that is. Let's just clear out my entities. So we have no troll now. And then I need to actually put this new troll into my world. So let's just that, and then grab that again. There's that troll. Okay, so it's receiving an entity on each tick. Sorry, I'll move that so that you guys can see it. Yep, there we go. And then I need a game client. So no, I didn't have the game client running ifman, but sorry, I just saw a couple of these comments. Something like tilt for your dev environment. I'm not sure if I know what that is. I'm going to just make a note of that. I assume it's an automated tester or something. Okay, so I'll just make sure I've got the bottom of the logs visible, hit play and watch everything crash. Yep, crashed. Location is undefined. Doesn't sound right. The location on my troll. Troll does have a location. Location. All right, I'm going to have to close this out of the command prompt and open it up in the debugger. We are testing the ticker service. Spin it up. I mentioned on Friday that I am having issues with my development environment here. For some reason, when I run the debugger, if I hit a breakpoint too early, the process crashes. So I always have to disable my breakpoints. And then come in here. All right, entity. It looks like it has a location. It has a chunk and a hex. So create component. What about the target? Okay, if I step over that, that works. Target location is undefined. Well, target location, of course, is undefined. Hold on. Aggro target is just the aggro target ID. That's a bit silly. So I need to actually pull out the aggro target. That is easily done. Aggro target is going to be equal to players.filter player ID. Aggro target ID. And I'm just going to assume that's defined at this point. Given this really should exist. The reason is that, oops, let's just stop that. The reason I'm confident it exists, sorry, before I go on, I need to stop my client, otherwise it's going to realize the server's gone and start spamming sessions. Yeah, so the reason I know that this player definitely exists in this list is because we either checked that it existed in there already, or we chose a player that we already knew about. So I'm very confident that this should exist, unless I've got a bug somewhere. But logically, that should be there if my code's correct. Spin it up in the debugger again, just in case we need a breakpoint. We're getting our entity, join the game. Famous last words, unless I have a bug somewhere, right? Okay, now let's run nice and close to this troll. Attack. Okay, so it's attacking us. It's a good sign. And then as I come back, it stops attacking us. Okay. Things are working far too well today. A bit worried. So the next thing I need to do, other than this to do, I'm going to have a few different entities to update at the end of the tick, though. So I'll write this code all at once. Next thing I need to do is do actual damage to the player. Now, in the client, I've got the player somewhere in here. And you can see that the player has, let me move that, there we go. The player has its health stats here. But these aren't being synced with the server yet, so that's another little piece of work that's going to have to happen. But for now, I need to just get the server storing some kind of health. 2:30 in the morning? Wow, that's dedication. I'm not sure whether or not you're the person on YouTube I suggested set an alarm. It was intended to be a joke, but I'm glad you could make it if it's you. Okay. So, yeah. Do I need to set the health? The creation of players is currently the responsibility of the session service. A new player is created anytime a new session starts. It has no knowledge that it's the same player coming back in if you close and reopen. Is that closed? Yes, that's closed. So that's all something that's going to happen later. But for now, here is where we create the player. There is a player component. I suppose that health and things should live in a different component. I'll copy off my client code and just have this called survival. So any entities, whether they're players or mobs, that are going to have survival attributes will have one of these components added to them. I mean, maybe it would make sense to actually call it has health. Yeah, we'll make it a has health so that certain mobs, for example, you don't want them having to worry about food and water necessarily. So I'll keep this one separate. Attributes. And we're going to have a max health, which is going to be 1,000, and a current health. Okay, so when we create a player, we just give them full health. It's pretty easy. Still not syncing up with the server, but that's okay. Coming back here. We are going to attack. Very first thing we need to do is work out what the health is. So health component is going to be equal to the aggro target. Oh, I've got a thing called get component entity is the aggro target, and this is going to be has health. Let's just call it health. Not that it really matters, but if we don't have a health component, then there's not much we can do here. An attack does not have a health component. And continue. Again, this isn't normally how I'd write a function. I wouldn't normally write a function even remotely that long. Since I have no idea how this stuff is going to look at the end of this little development effort, I figure I'll just throw it all into one function and break it up later, probably before the next devlog episode, I hope. Okay, so we have a health component here. So we can say health component dot attributes current health minus equals 100. We'll do a tenth of the total damage for now. Okay. Again, this is not being sent out to the entity service or to the client. Well, it is being sent to the client once it goes out to the entity service, but the client isn't considering this actual health yet. So that will probably be the next thing. First, I'll get it to write out current state to the entity service. We also need to configure a cooldown here so that the troll doesn't do damage on every single tick. Okay. So what I'm going to do is up the top, I'm just going to come up with something called updates. And then in there, I'm going to just insert anything that needs updating. So, for example, we need to learn how to type. There we go. Updates.push. And I'm going to put a component, an entity update into here. So an entity update. Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place here. I am going to tell it that updates is a list of entity updates. So we get type checking on that. I was going to update the agent state just here, but I know that the agent state is going to get updated in multiple places. So I'm going to do the agent state in here. So the first thing we need is an entity ID, which is going to be ID from hex, entity.id to proto. So that is the format that's being expected by this updates array. Transform, we are not going to set, but I have to be explicit about it to keep TypeScript happy. Then I'm going to give it a component. There should be an update type. There we go. Okay. Now to make sure that it updates the component, the correct component, I need to pass it a component ID X, and this is going to be the agent state. Doesn't know about that for some reason. That's going to be a problem. Why not? Component get component turns a component which doesn't yet have an ID. I think that will work. So I'm jumping around a bit here. Hopefully that's all right. I've got an update type, proto.update type dot update. We need to give it a type. Well, this I actually want to be undefined because I don't want to actually modify the type. It's not going to let me do that, is it? That's not what I want. I want I54. No, type has to be defined. That's probably a mistake, but so let's make that hashtag agent.state. Then attributes. Well, attributes is easy. I just put in here the agent state.attributes. I'm not sure that's right. The issue here is that this attributes expects values to get inserted into. I'll try and find the code. Yes, it wants them to go into a structure like this. So I'm unfortunately going to have to write this out in full. So in here, we're going to have an aggro target. Oops. Attribute. Yes, so this is meant to be a list. Again, I need a factory method here, but I'll wait until I've got a few copies of the code so I know exactly what I want it to look like. So I've got a name. It's going to be aggro target. And then a string value is going to be agent state dot attributes dot aggro target. Now I have to specify all the other ones as undefined. That's just a TypeScript and protobuf weirdness. I had issues with that on Friday. I was trying to work out how to get it to not require me to define everything, and apparently I just had to say that these were undefined. Now I think that's our only attribute for now. I will be adding the cooldown. But up in here, we do need to add another update for the change to the player. So let's get this. Entity ID is UUID from X aggro target D update type update. transform is undefined. Generic component. We need right. This is going to be the health component. Very verbose. String value this time is going to be undefined. Then int value can be the health component .current health. Okay. It recognizes that I forgot something off there. All right, so in theory, famous last words, but in theory, this should now be pushing the health change to the player, and it should be pushing the aggressive state onto the mob itself. So then in here, we just need to grab those updates and push them out to the entity server. That is very straightforward because we have the entity client. This dot, no, it's not this dot. It is just entity client dot send updates, and then we just give it the updates. That's asynchronous, so we have to wait on it. But in theory, that should now work. Our code compiles. I'll run it. Then I'll back and run the client, wherever that's gone. Here it is. Something is definitely very broken. The server, I think, crashed on startup. And I have no output. It's kind of weird. Actually going to completely bring down the space down. Docker goes down. Then let's bring it up here. Docker goes up. There we go. There is our error. Unable to compile TypeScript. That's an issue. Session controller. That'd do it. Didn't like that extra. Things suddenly slowed down a lot for me. So the issue here is that it's expecting me to specify an ID, but that doesn't make sense because I'm asking it to create some components. So what I'm going to have to do... Is everything stopped? Stopped. Oh, my CPU is only at 3%, so I don't know why IntelliJ's just suddenly started slowing down. So create entity takes a transient entity. Itself has component. So this has to be an optional ID. Fix it. Nope. I probably should have actually looked to see if IntelliJ was happy with that. Oh, IntelliJ is happy with it. So what is wrong? Ticker service. String or undefined is not assignable to string. So line 105 of the ticker service. 5. Okay. Now, I happen to know that this ID is always defined whenever it comes back from the server. So let's cheat and tell it to force the conversion. Ticker service is up. Not processing any entities, but that's to be expected. I deleted the server at one point there. So let's create the troll again. Troll's created and being processed. And then I'll add the player into the game. Now, because the player is not being attacked, I expect the player to have 1,000 health. There we go, they have 1,000 health. But if I walk up, it should very quickly get to very large negative numbers because I've got no bounds checking and we are still taking attacks on every tick. So we do that. We take a look and there are lots of errors. Okay. Something was in the wrong format. What have we got? Entity service had troubles parsing an ID. So I'm going to debug the ticker service, seeing it's the one generating these updates. I'll put a breakpoint on where we send that update through. Spin it up in the debugger. That doesn't look normal. What's happening here? It's the wrong font. Okay, then let's get our breakpoint there. Here we go. Updates. It's trying to send a single update through. Which has an agent state attached to it. IDs all look normal. It's definitely what's going wrong though. Okay, I'll bring the entity service up. Well, I really need to restart IntelliJ. I don't know what the story is. invalidate, just restart. Okay, this is better. Entity service, debug. Okay, where am I going to put my breakpoint? Controller in the update function. Seems reasonable. And we'll at least find out where this is crashing. So it has pulled out the ID successfully. It knows that it's an update. Oh, the transform. How's the transform set? Have the client running? Oh, I have the client running. Okay, let's try that again. Actually going to stop this and restart it. I don't know how many packets I will have received from the client updating their location. And I don't want to be stepping through all of those. Hit the breakpoint too early. Third time's a charm. Hit the breakpoint. Here we go. Out of interest, what is the ID of the troll? The troll ends in E5. So yep, this looks like the troll. We get the entity type. We grab the... We don't have an update to transform. That's good. Oh, I've managed to remove my code that does the component updates. Okay. I have some code here that got partway updated as I was messing around with the way that data was stored in Mongo. So just going to stop this, clean up this code. I won't keep the stream going too much longer today. Let's make this a deletion request. Is the update? I don't want to dispatch these requests. Yeah, okay, this unfortunately needs a fair bit of work. I do need to dispatch them as multiple requests. Thanks, Ifman. Yeah, when you write as many bugs as me, you tend to get pretty good at debugging. Okay, now it's dot underscore ID. Const component ID is going to be component update. Component ID. Okay, now when we're creating one, I do not want a match on the component ID. I just want to push in a new component. So that's going to be dot push. It's component dot push. Components dot push. And then that should be fine. But when we're doing an update, yes. This one, components dot dollar dot set. ID dollar dot set. So I believe this will actually set the component specified matching this ID. And I think that's all that was wrong. I ended up moving this down, but that's fine. That the this is a problem. If I don't specify the transform, then I don't want it to remove the transform. So I am going to have to put in here a const transform update. It's going to be equal to my parameter. My main parameter here is the update dot transform. If the transform is specified, then I want to have transform update dot transform. Otherwise, I want this. I just don't want to update the transform at all. So then what I can do in here is I can just do dot 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 transform update, which will either insert the transform parameter or it'll insert nothing. That will stop it from stomping on the transform. Location, I guess, should also be set in here. Well, and then that ends up meaning that this is absolutely nothing. So this whole thing's kind of, this whole conditional thing is a bit pointless. Let's undo that. And I'll make that entire promise. So this is a promise returned out of update 1. I'll actually only do that if update.transform is set. Otherwise, I'll just do promise dot I can't remember how to make a resolved promise. Is it just that? Okay, I'll just make it an array of promises that will either have a single item in it or it will be empty. And then we'll just insert all those items into the promises.all. Still not right. Oh, because that's typo. Okay. Is this going to work? Probably not. Didn't crash on startup that time. That's good. Uh, entities controller 203. Okay, so what is happening here is when we're getting a component update rather than a component creation, for some reason it looks like this component ID is malformed. So I'll just spin the server up, see if we can grab this breakpoint. I'll need to bring a client in. Should trigger an update. There we go. Okay, here we are getting a new update coming through for the agent state. Update type of 2 is an update. That's correct. Well, we hit this breakpoint, so of course it is. What is wrong with our ID? That looks like a totally fine ID. ID is coming out of Mongo, by the way, at 12 bytes long. So we expect 3 of these 32-bit values to be set and 1 of them to be 0, because they just never get set to anything but 0 by Mongo. Did we get the exception? No, we didn't get the exception there. We did on that one. To bring... My face is probably in the way now. Okay, you can kind of see what's happening here. Stop the thing. Restart it. Okay. Where's my other window gone? There it is. Still crashing. Am I debugging the right service? Yes. So it's crashing in from Proto. The actual exception is that ID high is obviously undefined. Okay, UUID, I know where to set a breakpoint. On here, we just go to line 40. Problem is I need a breakpoint on here that fires if ID high is undefined. Could just press F9 a few times and see if I can catch it. Ah, Welcome back, Griffith. I am just about to finish up the stream. Currently, I've obviously got something that I assumed was a buffer or a long. And it is set to the wrong type. So what are we expecting in here? Yeah, we're expecting these to be longs, but I suspect they're not. All right, so I think I am going to have to finish up the stream here because I'm going to need to work out what's going on here, and it's going to take too much brain power for me to stream at the same time. Sorry you couldn't stick around longer here, Griffith, but thank you everyone for popping in. I do plan to stream again tomorrow. Not sure if it'll be the same time. I may look at doing it at a different time to see how my availability is. And so, yeah, thank you all again for joining, and look forward to seeing you next time. See ya.